couple things. First of all, disappointed we didn't come up with a victory against Iowa. Going in, we knew we were going to really need to play pretty air-free when you go on the road and play against a good quality opponent that has a really great program. You gotta play clean, and we didn't do that. We did some good things during the course of the game. I thought our defense to be able to come up with 4 takeaways is certainly encouraging, and they were forced. Actually, we had 4 fumbles, which we recovered 3, so that was positive. Also, limiting them to 263 yards. If you just look at yardage-wise, you'd have to say, okay, that's positive. There were some things that were, somewhat disappointing. Obviously, some of our tackling later on as the game went along, and we had too many explosive plays. Offensively, it was good to see a new combination with the offensive line. I think the addition of our 2 freshmen, Logan Harris and Alonzo Velasquez, I think is really going to prove us well as we move forward. They certainly were challenged. Iowa's front 7 is as good as advertised, maybe even a little bit better. Our plan was to get the ball on the perimeter and make their secondary and some of their perimeter guys tackle well, which they did. For us to stay on the field, we've got to convert on some 3rd downs, and particularly the 3rd down and makeables, which we were not able to do. So credit Iowa. They came up with a good plan and they executed really well, and they played to their strengths. A couple injuries. Colton Donovan will be lost for the season, at least it looks like right now, with a torn ACL in his knee. So we're going to be in the process of looking at a new deep snapper. Drevon Mannen is right now the leading candidate for that. Josiah Hall will also not be playing this next week. He suffered a concussion, so he'll go through protocol. And outside of that, we're fairly healthy. Josh Allen probably won't practice for a couple days. He got his non-throwing shoulder nicked up a little bit. Speaking with the sports medicine yesterday, feel very comfortable he'll be able to play, but I think just got to get some bumps and bruises healed up there. Concerning Gardner-Webb, we've done a lot of work on Gardner-Webb. We looked at them during the course of this summer and spent some time during fall practice on them. They've got a great quarterback, Maxwell. I know has been touted as one of the top FCS offensive players. He's a big, strong guy, 6'3", 230. He runs 4.5, so he's a dual-threat quarterback. They've got a strong front 7. I know they stubbed their toe last week in their opening game as well. So you got 2 teams that are scratching and fighting for a first win. I know that we're going to have a hungry football team as we get ready for our home opener, so we're excited about that. So at this time, any questions anybody might have?
Going back to Josh Allen and some of the decisions he made, whether it was to keep the ball or throw it away, it seemed like he wanted to keep it and try and make a play work. What did you think of those decisions?
Well, I think the lion's share of the game, if you look at how he executed, I was particularly happy with. The intentional grounding play, that was a mistake. He was trying to make a play, and I think there was another time he was scrambling around. Now, what became apparent was the speed of Iowa's front 7. Whereas before he's been able to run away from that. Jewell has got great speed, and so I thought Iowa did a nice job. But his decision making, by and large, was pretty good. What our plan was they were going to play their safeties deep, and so to take long throws was going to be pretty counterproductive. We were going to have to make some plays in the intermediate. I thought he threw the ball well on the outside, and Iowa really answered the bell. They came up and tackled, and we needed to make some plays there.
Again, it was one game against a very good defense with the supporting cast around Josh, but the running backs and the receivers. Again, one game, you're still pretty confident in those guys. There was some things there you liked or didn't like from the first game with that group?
We're going to need to make more plays, and you've got to have a measured approach there, Robert. I think we're going to play one of the best front 7s. We played one of the best front 7s that we're going to play all year, and those guys were technically sound and they tackled really well. We're going to need to generate some more yardage from our running backs. Hopefully that can come about, and we're going to need to generate some more big play. We had one explosive play in the game, and it would be a play that you would look at and say, well, it was a good play. But outside of that, the number of explosive plays that we needed to make to win, we were not able to. And I want to credit Iowa a little bit. Now, we certainly can do some things better. There was a couple drops that we had that hurt. But we need to credit Iowa. I thought they really did a nice job keeping the ball up in front of them and then tackling well.
With Drew at long snapper, I know he's kind of been the backup there for a while, but it seems like maybe doesn't take too many reps at least during practice. Is just for now, are you fairly confident in him stepping in there? It looked like the one he had Saturday went pretty well.
It did, but that combination of having your starting fullback be your starting deep snapper is not ideal. Typically, all of a sudden, Drew's playing a really, really physical position, and sometimes a guy's going to get nicked up, and now you've got another snapper. So we're going to work really hard this week to develop a number 2 snapper, and I'll get back in touch with you. I wish I had a definite answer for you right now. Right now, Drew's the backup snapper. Hopefully, we'll develop somebody else.
Is Colton able to do a medical, Richard, or are there different rules for that with the grad transfer?
You know what? He and I had a lengthy discussion. He'd like to pursue that. I don't know what his status is going to be because of the transfer.
I know with Granderson coming off the knee injury, 10 tackles led you guys. It's not often a defensive end's going to lead a team in tackles. Were you pleased with how he came back from that injury? And it seems like, just looking at the numbers, that he's more than back from that injury.
I would agree with you. His numbers were good, and he was productive on tape. He didn't play with any sense of being tentative. I thought he was aggressive. We rallied around the football. We hit the quarterback time and time again, and Carl was a big portion of that. There were some positive things that I saw out of our defense that were not there, and we had hoped that we would have an aggressive group of defensive players, and that certainly came about. I do want to measure that optimism with, we've got to improve though. There was a stretch where we had several meltdowns, not meltdowns, but miscues, and that stretch right before the half, that was a collection of a lot of different errors, and those are things that we've got to clean up, and defensively, we are part of that as well.
It seems like you're pretty pleased with how Wyoming's front seven and like Logan Harris handled some plays. Moving forward, how do you want to see them tweak a few things, or whether that's reading plays or making tackles?
Well, there's some technical things, and this front's going to be a little bit different this week. We're playing a 3-4 front as opposed to a 4-3 front. Iowa was pretty static, and we're going to see a different combination. We'll need to be a little bit more confident. I thought Logan snapped the ball well. Alonzo was fairly clean, but there was a couple errors that he made. There was 2 pretty significant miscues, errors that he made, so we got to clean that up. But I think physically, that group really looks good, and that group playing together during the course of this season gives us a great promise.
You look at Gardner-Webb, you mentioned some things. Are they an option team? Are they pro style? That I know that you mentioned the quarterbacks. Pretty good, but what do they do?
Well, they operate out of a 3-4 front. They'll be solid up front with the front 7. Offensively, shotgun, option game, read zone, different combinations, some similarities to New Mexico. Quarterback is a dynamic player. Last week, though, North Carolina A&T got after him, and I know their head coach and I at AT&T work together. They've had a couple pro prospects. But yeah, they're going to stress our defense, and it's a completely different style of offense compared to what we saw this last week.
This is a good test, too. I know you mentioned it was similar to New Mexico. I know there was the struggles of last year, and this is a new team, but to get a look at that, even though it's maybe not the same as New Mexico, is that a good time to maybe get a look at it with this group right now?
Well, first of all, I want to say this. It's going to be really good for us to go out and play well to get a win. And this offense that we're going to be confronted with is going to stress our defense. You hit the nail on the head last year. We had a really difficult time with that style of option offense, and they will run option off of their gun formation, and so it's going to be a challenge for us. And I really believe this, so I think you're going to see our players bounce back and tackle well and run and pursue well.
Tim Zaleski, I think it's next punt after the one that he botched. He pinned him, I think, inside the 10 there. Did you just kind of like mentally, did you see him bounce back pretty well from that error at the end of the first half?
I'm glad you brought that up, because believe me, no one during that time feels worse than Tim Zaleski. And so I think he's on the list to get interviewed today. I'd ask that, you know what, he did bounce back. And I gave him some encouragement right after the muff, and he nailed the inside. I think it was inside the 10 or inside the 20, which was a good punt. He needs to play better though, and he understands that. He's got a role on this football team, and I was encouraged to see him in that environment, to go into a Big Ten environment for a rookie player. Sometimes it's going to bring about some different feelings, and unlike me, like I said, if I tee off at a Cowboy Joe event, I probably muff the ball, and the next 3 times I muff it too. And he answered the bell and did a lot better than I would.
Coach, you talked about your playmakers having to step up. There's always that fine line of them starting to press a little too much, I guess. How do you kind of balance that?
Right. Well, Josh and I had to talk about that too. Iowa's game plan was to keep the ball up in front of them and come up and tackle well. And so sometimes when you look at that, you think, well, I've got to make something happen. And he did force one ball where he got picked off. The screen pass that was picked off, sometimes that comes out of collateral damage. But as a group, we need to let the game play out how it's supposed to play out, and not press. And many times, if you force things offensively, you got to take what the defense is giving you. And I want to commend Iowa. They had the net plays to their strength. They kept the ball in front of them and tackled really well. This week we're going to see a different type of defense, and we'll need to attack that.
Are you concerned with Josh's non-throwing shoulder? Is that more
No.
precautionary? Is it?
It's sore. It's sore. He landed on it wrong. It was early in the game. He finished the game. He's got some soreness in there. He'll play Saturday. We're just going to make sure. I know you're tracking, where all the guys are at, and I'm always pretty doggone forthcoming with you guys. He's probably not going to practice today, and he may not practice tomorrow. I think he'll return at least by Wednesday to make sure he gets those live reps that we're going to see him, and he'll play Saturday.
This thing is just, it's been a while. You mentioned you want to win a football game. It's been a while since this team won one. Is that the big motivation, no matter if it's Gardner-Webb or whoever you're playing? Is that kind of the sense you're getting from the group, even though it's early, that you just want to win a football game?
Well, there's no doubt, and I think we want to play at home and win in front of our fans. If you looked last year, we had a heck of a record at home. We came up short once, but we won a lot of great games, and so it's going to be super running out. We're going to have a new entrance here. Our team's going to come out Saturday, and so we're excited about playing our home opener. There's a lot of football left. I know a lot of times coaches will say that, but that's fact. We lost an opportunity against a really good program and fight it. We're going to forget that one and move on, and that's what we're doing.